Good evening and welcome to another episode of Green TV Pat Foundation. Tonight I have a very special guest, Darren Wright, who works in veterans into logistics. So very interesting and worthwhile work he's doing. So Darren, tell me a bit more about who you are and what you do when you've got your screen sorted. And it's a bit of a different format, isn't it, on StreamYard?
One minute, apologise.
That's okay. Sorted?
Yep.
Is that you're happy with that? Yep. Yes. So Darren, hello and welcome to the show. Tell us a bit more, and our viewers out there, who you are and what you do with the veterans in logistics, and then we'll find a little bit more out about you, if that's okay.
No problem. My name's Darren Wright, ex-army. I'm from Veterans into Logistics, based up in Manchester.
Right, perfect. So what does Veterans in Logistics do then, Darren? So what does that actually mean?
Veterans into Logistics is what it says on the tin. It's supporting veterans to get into the logistic industry. Our main audience is like veterans who struggled, to find employment in Civvy Street. So yeah, we help the less academic, veterans who are struggling to find work, and we offer LGV driver training to get these individuals back into employment. Right.
So how long have you been doing this for?
We started last year. The reason why we started last year because I was sick of seeing veterans who were taking their own life, and sick of seeing veterans in prison, and I'm sick of seeing veterans, ending up on the streets and not in full-time employment. And so we've been going since last year.
Wow, and then that's powerful in itself. So obviously it's very passionate to your heart. I mean, is that something that you found yourself in a position of?
Yeah, when I left the armed forces, I fell by the wayside, and I was in a bad position for a lot of years. For a few years, 2-3 years, I tried taking my own life. I ended up receiving a custodial sentence, which actually saved my life. That's where I got the correct support that I needed. So upon leaving prison, I already had my LGV license that I got at Leconfield. So I was able to get to find employment as an LGV driver, and then I worked on my way up to being a fuel tanker driver, earning over 50k a year. And then it wasn't until I went to my mate's funeral in 2018, and that's when I walked away from the funeral after he'd not even been out of the military 12 months. After his full 22 years, Jamie Doyle. And that's when I walked away from that funeral. I thought, you know what, more needs to be done, because I'm seeing more veterans taking their life. I'm seeing more veterans who were homeless, ending up in custody. Well, when I was locked up, there was plenty of veterans in there. And it's the veterans from the less deprived areas that you seem to have problems with. And the reason why I say that, you never see a veteran, when you walk down the street and you see a veteran who's homeless, you don't expect him to be an officer or someone who's got a trade or a skill. He's a veteran that's come from a deprived background, council estate probably, served in the infantry for a few years. When he leaves the military, he hasn't got a trade or a skill that can support him into meaningful employment. So that's why they end up in the position that they end up. So this is why I formed Veterans into Logistics. I'm here to give the lads and girls who serve our country a better opportunity to earn a decent living. I earn 50 grand a year as a truck driver.
Wow.
So, and I'm less academic. I'm just with no qualifications. I grew up on a council estate, come from a deprived background, joined the military to get away the way a lot of northern kids do. Then after leaving the military, like I said, I fell by the wayside. But my daughter's a school teacher, so she done 3 years as doing an English degree. She's done a year doing PGCE, plus with studying A-levels, so just say 6 or 7 years as further education, and she went and got a job starting on 26 grand a year. I can get individuals who are less academic, within 10, 12 weeks, I can get jobs starting on 35 grand a year. So these individuals who, these veterans who are struggling to find employment, if they want to get into the logistic industry as truck drivers, within 10 weeks, I can get jobs for them starting on 30 or 35 grand a year, working their way up. And there's a national shortage of truck drivers, and it's going even worse now with the new IR35 that's coming. I'm speaking to companies now, national companies, and it's screaming out for drivers. I've spoken to companies I went to a CTP event last year. At the CTP event, I got talking to these national companies like DHL and other companies, and I said, how do you do at these events, for recruiting potential truck drivers? You want to know the truth. We don't recruit any truck drivers. These companies spend thousands of pounds trying to recruit truck drivers at these CTP events and not recruiting any drivers. And I said, I know what your problem is.
That surprises me. Yeah, I mean, working in recruitment myself, I'm place drivers. Literally, obviously, this is where our connections come in to form that alliance, Darren. So I'm going to touch back on when you said you've, thank you for sharing your story, that you've come from, a deprived background, and, you're finding that the less educated ones, so you're offering a pathway for them. So do you find that when they come out of the services, I mean, I've touched this on previous shows, and we've had this discussion quite a bit, that, they do fall by the wayside. There's not so much the help there, and there's not so much the support to guide them on their way. I mean, is that what happened to you? How did you manage to fall, into the spiral that you did?
I think when I left, I just fell by the wayside. I was taking alcohol, I was taking drugs, I was self-medicating myself. I was in a really
way of cope, and you was feeling that way because you didn't have work, you didn't have, was it other things, or was it just the work aspect?
It was other things. Like I was self-medicating. I was taking drinking drugs at night just to get through the night. I was in a pretty bad way. I was missing the military.
Right.
When I grew up as a kid, I didn't really have a family network. But in the military, you get that. You miss yes. Your family, you miss and that's what the military does to you. But
I was going to say, do you find the routine of the military helps? You come out of the military into civilian life, and it's a case of, you've got to pay your own bills. You've got to, you don't have that structure that you do in the military of getting up at a certain time, and everything's laid out for you with food, with, and it's a way of life, isn't it? So when you come out of that environment, you've kind of, I suppose, got to fend for yourself in a little bit. Did you find that aided in your struggles?
I was just all over the place. Everything really. But like I said, when I received the custodial sentence that saved my life, I tried taking my own life. I became homeless, lost my relationship. I became a distant father to my kids. I was unrecognisable. I was in a bad way. But receiving the custodial sentence actually saved my life, and that's
so that was the pivotal moment, was it? So whilst in prison, was you rehabilitated then? Did you take measures to reform? Tell me how that works.
That's where I got the support that I needed. Combat stress got involved, and it gave me time to get myself sorted out. So when I left prison, I came out in my head straight. So I was lucky to already have my LGV license from Blackfield, like I said, discussed before. So within a week of coming out, I had full-time employment, and I've not looked back since. So the demand there is for truck driving, and like I said, I can understand where a lot of individuals who leave the military who struggle to find employment. I know I say infantry, but you think like a tank driver or tank operator. What work are they going to get? They can't drive a tank in city streets, so they struggle to find employment.
Yeah, not really.
Infantry, what did they get? Go stag on as a security guard, minimum wage. Do you know what I mean? Or you got to go and do CP work, as well as truck driving. You can earn a decent wage. You can earn a good living.
Yeah, there needs to be more done, and there needs to be, I mean, well done, and how commendable that, you've turned the bad situation into a good. You've set out your, the company Veterans in Logistics. I can put all the links, and, if people veterans out here watching that, need a chance, need an opportunity to get into contact with you. And it just offers a pathway, a direction, I guess. Learn a skill, pays really well, and like you said, and I know this from working in employment too, that there is the work out there for them. I've got a couple of national contracts myself, so it is literally, there is work out there for people. So what advice would you give to people that's come out a little bit directionless, not sure what to do? What could they expect from working with you, for example?
Well, what they can expect working was obviously we're going to offer them the training and the support and the mentoring. I've got a lot of experience, like I said, I've done every type of truck driving. I've driven container trucks, fridges, went my way up to the top of being a fuel tanker driver. So I've got the experience. So the fellow veterans, the fellow brothers and sisters, do you know what I mean? I'll give them the advice. There's companies out there that are screaming out for, ex-military personnel. But the thing is, like I said, they go to the CTP events. They can't recruit truck drivers at these CTP events because everyone that was at the CTP event, they're all career soldiers. They've got careers, they've got trades. It's the less academic individuals who serve in the military to get away from the private upbringing. These are the perfect individuals where we give them a truck license, less academic, and they can go and earn like 30 grand a year up to 50 grand a year. And everyone looks at looks at a truck driver as thinking, well, they watch ISO truckers or they watch Steady Stobarts, and they think that you're doing, nights out and you're away from home. If someone said to me that they need to be at home every day to pick the kids up from school, it's like, go and drive a milk truck, go and drive a bin truck. There's that many different types of driving roles, and it's understanding the individual and finding what suits them. And even if they don't want to stay truck drivers, at least being a truck, it's a living, and at least they're doing it, and then they can, maybe go into management or retrain to for another career. But the main thing is at least they've got something to fall back on, and they'll always be able to earn money, to support them in there.
Yeah, it's a good career. There's always going to be a need for it, isn't it? It's not something that's going to go out of fashion, or the country relies on logistics to transport absolutely anything up and down the country. So it's not something that's never going to be of use. So yeah, really well done. It's great, inspiring work. So I'm going to touch on you're a bit of a celebrity at the moment. I think you was in the newspaper on Monday. To tell us a bit more about that. I think, is it MP? I forget the name now. Has got involved in obviously what you're doing and what you're doing for the veterans. So tell us a bit about that, Darren.
Well, I was in the Manchester Evening News, so they wanted to know I'd done a story.
That's really good.
Speaking the truth, really, just explaining, my life struggles, like I've served, I'm a veteran. I've also received, a custodial sentence. So I've got life experience, and that's what I'm sharing with what we're doing now. And it's like, they said he's over 10%, it's probably more than 10% of veterans who end up in custody. We end up in prison. And the reason why they end up in prison is because they leave the armed forces. They can't access the LCAS because it's learning credit level 3. So they can't get a trade. So you think that LCAS are saving money on, they're saving money, so they've made it harder for these less academic individuals to access their funding. So just say they end up in prison.
Really?
That costs the government 45 grand a year just to hold someone in prison. Do you know what I mean? So they're not saving. And these are the people that we want to help. I've got national companies, Tarmac, Suez. They're all willing to take on ex-offenders. So veterans coming out, I want to support them. I want to give them a trade where they can earn a decent wage, where they can stand on their own 2 feet, so they don't have to re-offend, they don't end up homeless, they don't take their own life, and we can give them a license that supports them, so they've got meaningful employment and they can be a normal person in society. Absolutely. And since last year, all the veterans that we support and we trained, I took a veteran last year. He was suicidal. He was staying in Speak House in Liverpool, close to topping himself. I trained him up to be an LGV driver. That guy now, when I speak to him, you can hear the difference in his voice.
He's got purpose, yeah.
He's got purpose. He's got structure. He's got stability. He's earning 600 quid a week. He's sorted his relationship out back with his missus and kids. And he's got structure. He's got purpose again. So the ripple side of that, last year he was ready to top, close to topping himself. Now he's earning a decent living. He's got a job. He's got a purpose. His kids are not gonna grow up without a dad.
Yeah, it's the impact that it has on everybody, isn't it? If you'd not done what you've done, for example, that might have impacted on your kids. And I think you told me your daughter's studying to be a teacher. There's there's things it does, the generations do tend to impact, and that's not to put pressure on veterans that, you know, you've got to sort yourself out, everybody suffers, it isn't it? It's about focusing on the individual. But
it did impact on my kids' life because I ended up in prison, you know.
Yeah.
So it did. So my kids grew up without me, without a dad for a bit. But at least I'm here now. I did try to take my own life, you know. But like I said, I'm glad I went to prison because I got the treatment I needed, and I come out a better person. I come out back to me.
And that's down to you, you know, you did that. That's down to you, you know, and it's well done that you did that. You know, was there something inside that said, you know what, I've got to sort this out? Because not everybody can, you know, some people are that low down they can't.
No, I got the support. I got the correct support that I needed in prison. Like I said, combat stress got involved. I got the correct support.
Is that care for combat? Is that the same thing that you're talking about?
Yeah, so I got the help that I needed when I was in prison. So when I come out, my head was straight, and I went to work. It was clear. Felt like a new person. Built my relationship up better with my kids. Became a supporting dad, and then I worked. And like I said, I worked my way up to being a fuel tanker driver, earning 50 odd grand a year. But I know what it's like to come from a deprived upbringing. You know, mum in and out of care. I know what it's like to come from join the military just to get away. You know, just for a better employment opportunities of what you've been dragged up in. You know, up in the northern, not saying northern, but I know what it's like. And it's these individuals who join the military, do 5 or 6 years, and then they come out. They've got no transferable skill. They've got no trade. They've been infantry soldiers or they've driven a tank.
It's a very different environment, isn't it?
100%. So when they come out and they can't find employment and they haven't got a skill, all of a sudden they become depressed because then they start missing their mates. They're missing the times that they've had, trips to Canada or Kenya, and you start missing all that because they've got no purpose. It's where we give them the training, you know, build up the network. They can stand on their own 2 feet. They can a decent living, and that's why we form Veterans into Logistics to support our fellow veterans and get them into meaningful employment.
Oh, well done. It's really commendable. I know we've had a couple of comments now. Andy Steele has said, you know, well done for your work, and, you know, think about how many people's lives you've changed it, you know, and made an impact. So, you know, really well done. So it's no wonder you've been in the paper. And who's the MP that you're going to go and talk to? An interest.
We had a local MP, Chris Clarkson, MP for Haven and Milton. He come and visited our site last week. I've got another meeting on Monday with Sir Graham Brady, MP.
Wow.
And we're going to try and arrange a meeting with Johnny Mercer, MP. Let's make a change. Let's get these veterans trained up and get them into employment. There's too many veterans who took their own life, end up in prison, you know, becoming homeless. Let's support the ones who have standing up for allegiance and you know, put life on the line for our country. They deserve more than what they get.
Oh, I'm with you on that. Let's make a change, Darren. Let's make a pledge. Let's
100%.
do a sign. Where do I sign? Let's make a change. Totally on the same page. Well, that's been absolutely brilliant. I mean, is there anything else you'd like to say, you know, to the veterans out there? Any more guidance, or, you know, it's clear to me that, you know, if you are need something to go into, you know, contact Darren and get into the logistics and get training and, you know, a career out this. But is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, we've got access to funding through another national training organisation. So if they're unemployed or earning under 18 grand a year, we've got access to funding to support them to get their LGV class 2. So yeah, there's access to funding there. If anyone wants to know anything about us, phone up, speak to us. You know, we'll support you and give you advice. You know, that's what we do. We're there for our own, to support our own.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll post links on Green TV, the Pat Foundation's Facebook and websites and things. So we'll post all the links in there. So there's no excuse for getting in touch. Well, thanks ever so much for coming on the show, Darren. Brilliant to listen to your story, and your work's absolutely amazing. Really, really well done. And, you know, it'll last for future generations. You'll leave that legacy behind. So, you know, really well done. Really, really good.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for watching. Tune in again next week where we have more special guests on the show. And yes, have a lovely, lovely evening. So it's bye from Gail Acaster and bye from Darren.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Bye now.
Bye.